Good evening. Let
Good
me welcome
evening.
you
Good
to
evening.
another episode on the SosoBone Media Network as we take you down the road of our legacy series with host, the Honorable Dale Brown, Honorable Secretary of the First World Cricket Hall of Fame. And as tradition, Dale brings to us the gems and sometimes he says the diamonds that he uncovers in our community so that we can archive those of us who are making significant contribution to our people and to our growth. So at this time, I would say welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sharing. And thank you for all the wonderful comments that you send back to us about how the platform is representing you in our community. And at this time, I would like to turn over to none other than the Honorable Dale Brown. Dale, and over to you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Trevor, and greetings to everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Diaspora Legacy Series. Today, we are more than honored to have amongst us and to welcome Dr. Donovan Miles and Mrs. Gwen Miles to our program. These two individuals truly embody the meaning of what we will refer to as sacrificial love, meaning of leadership that comes through selfless self sacrifice. And this is defined by their humility, their compassion, and as I said before, extraordinary sacrifice. So join me in welcoming Dr. Donovan and Miss Gwen Miles. Welcome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you and good evening to you and Trevor and also to all your listeners in the diaspora and around the world who may be listening to this wonderful opportunity for us. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, sir. And we are just so happy to meet you after hearing wonderful things about you and the work that you are doing. But before we get into the actual work that you are doing, we would just like to ask both of you, looking back on your formative years, what lessons and values or experiences influenced the commitment you have now made to serving others?
You want to go with that?
Sure. Well, I'll start by speaking about my mother, Annie Maud Panton Powell, who was a nurse at KPH for at least 50 years. She also served in the UK and also in the US as a nurse and chose to return to Jamaica because she felt if every nurse left, there'd be no one for the poor. So she returned, and she's the only one in my growing years that showed me by how she treated and if you can visualize, the madman, so to speak, covered in dirt from his head to his toe on the streets. She I saw her one day take one of those men. He was in front of our home at the time, and she gave him a thorough bath. She fed him and put clothes, my father's clothes, on him, clothing and shoes. And I had never seen that. I honestly, I would not have had that level of compassion to be able to do that. And I'm just being honest with you, but that touched me greatly. And I think in my subconscious, it formed that little note that said, this is the way we should view the world, I mean, take care of others, touch the ones who are untouchable. And so that was my beginning.
Yeah, for me though, my approach was a little bit different. My foray into this whole thing. My grandmother had a business store in Luke Lane. And for me, when I was growing up, one of the words that I hear being thrown around right now is resilience. But many years ago in my formative years, I knew about resilience because my grandmother in the 40s and 50s, she had three boys. She was a single woman. Her husband had passed away when she was 19 after being married for 2 years, and she raised those boys by herself. And so I could see her every day going to work. She had her own place on Loot Lane, like I said before, and making dresses, walking around to the various places, selling her dresses, selling her bags. There were times when money was difficult to come by, but yet still, we always had Christmas dinner. I never wanted in my life at all because of all the stuff that she did for me. Um, so resilience was a different approach for me, and of course, meeting Gwen and hearing some of the things that she was involved in, then I became involved in it as well. I did do some stuff back in my earlier lifetime as well, cooking for homeless people in Philadelphia. 300 homeless people, 3,000, I'm sorry, homeless people on Thanksgivings. And, we did about maybe 5 or 6 of those. It was very exhausting, very tiring. But just the ability to be able to help those folks, that was just awesome. That was great for us.
Right. So with all of that, in terms of those formative years, like at primary school, how, if you could share with us the primary school that you attended and how did all of these lessons affect you at that time?
Why, I tell you, Honorable Dale Brown, I used to get a lot of beating. And I used to get a lot of caning when I was younger, not because I was a bad boy, but I went to Chetola Park Primary School. I won't tell you the name that it used to be called back in the day, but it was inner city school, down by William Street, and the principal was actually my mother's cousin. And so, that didn't bode well for me at all, because no matter where I was, if anything go wrong, I drape up, I get drape up.
Well, and Miss Gwen?
Well, for me, it was Harborview Primary School. However, back then, I was extremely quiet, but I had a mischievous side to me. And I remember, the one day being on the playing field, playing baseball, and I had very long hair at the time. And this boy came up to me and yanked my hair, and I was a stone thrower. I was known for my stone throwing skills. And I remember firing a rock after him, burst his head. He was running away. And, I threw the stone, didn't think twice about it until a big boy came up to me and pat me on the shoulder and said, he's his big brother. And I just burst his brother's head. I said, me? And I was sweet. All I can say, I was very sweet. Long and short of it, they took me, all of us went to the principal. And at the time, his name was Mr. Peart. And he said, Gwen, no, Gwen doesn't give any problems. I said, that's right. I said, I don't know what he's talking about. I didn't hit anyone. I was busy playing baseball. And so anyway, when the principal turned to a teacher who had brought us there and also the two boys, he turned his back to me. So I said to the boy, you see, I will bust your head too. The big brother, I will bust your head to say that I watch out.
Of course, I know.
I'm innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
I don't give her any reason to throw stones.
That's right.
Right.
So that's
Professor,
my story.
Professor, you want to ask about the mangoes by any chance?
No, I'm just glad that they never brought this stone as a witness.
Good one.
Yeah, so just so after primary school and everything, you obviously you went to secondary school. So since you are from the urban areas, could you just tell us which secondary school you attended?
I went to Calabar High School, and it was a great opportunity for me. Having gone from a co-ed school in primary school to an all-boys school, the testosterone was high, and so we got into trouble again. But I think what happened though is that one of the teachers that I recall fondly was Sam Washington, taught me history. And the history that he taught us was about West Indian history, African history, and it gave me a good feel of self, you know. Of course, you grew up with your family and you were basically sheltered in that kind of environment. But just to hear about what the other side was doing, the real stories behind some of the travails and the demonstration of resilience that Black people had when they were transported against their will, to the Caribbeans and also to the Americas as slaves, and the way that they handled themselves. Yeah, so Mr. Sam Washington, man, very, very honorable gentleman, history teacher, taught us Black history. And one of the first books that I actually read and I enjoyed was Grounding with My Brothers by Sir Walter Rodney. And that was a book that was actually banned as well. But that was a really good read.
Right. And Miss Gwen, your school?
Camperdown High School.
Ooh, okay.
And so that when I passed common entrance at age 10, I passed it to St. Andrew's High School, but my mother said no. She didn't want me to. I was a preemie, you see, 7-month preemie baby, and so she, as mischievous as I was, she wanted to keep me close. So she said that's the furthest I was going to go from Harborview, Camperdown.
Okay.
And I never regretted it. It was a truly wonderful experience for me. I excelled there, and it helped me to develop a love for science. So I truly, not only science, but they saw my capability and encouraged me from third form, do JC exams. I started doing JC and O levels at that time, and took it all the way through sixth form. So I really loved my years there, and I truly valued all that it contributed to my life.
So one of the things I must tell you is that she got A-level art in fifth form, and she's always told me how good an artist she is. So we're hoping that she can get some downtime so I can see those artistic talents. I'm not saying I don't believe, I trust, but I also need to verify.
True, but you missed a certain phase of life where I painted these huge murals in very prominent locations, but you have never had a chance to see them. So
show me the proof, man.
There you go. Well, we gotta work on that.
Okay, that is so beautiful to hear, and I have no doubts about your artistic talents, Miss Gwen. No doubt. Yes. But for those who are not familiar with CASSM, which is the subject of our interview, the CASSM Foundation Global, would you introduce this foundation to our listeners? Let us know who it was named after and what inspired that decision to name it after those persons.
Sure. So CASSM Foundation, it's the acronym for Creswell Ullman Smikle, who was my uncle, and Sylvia Miles, his mother, and my grandmother. And Bobby, as he is affectionately called, Creswell, he used to do a lot of stuff in Jamaica. He was with the Kiwanis Club and Rotary Club. He was a chartered accountant, went to England, studied, came back to Jamaica. As soon as he was finished, he came back, and he saw the need to play a positive role in Jamaica by becoming a member of these different societies. My grandmother, Sylvia Miles, she was a businesswoman, but she also had compassion. She had a heart. My friends would come over for Christmas dinners, and there were quite a number of them, and she would cook for everybody. She didn't have to, but she did. There was also a young gentleman who, and this is kind of important because the young gentleman at the time that used to be in the area, used to walk around the area, homeless, mental health, a casualty from one of the high schools in the area, and my grandmother would feed him, you know. And like Gwen's mom, but not to the level of Gwen's mom, my grandmother would donate clothes to him as well, you know. So I grew up seeing my uncle and my grandmother doing those things, and even my father, very, very, very humble gentleman, and in his own way, he used to contribute a lot to the society. We recently lost him, and so you know it's a little bit emotional for us because he left us and went home in January of this year.
Oh, yeah. So if you don't mind, could you just repeat his name again?
So Creswell Allman Smichael, CASSM, and then Sylvia Miles for, you know, so
Yes.
CAS and SM,
And
CASSM,
SM.
right?
Yeah, that's really very deep, and I'm sure they were very honored that you would think of them in that way. I do believe.
Yeah, well, they were a positive, extremely positive influence in my life, you know.
Yes.
My uncle would sit down, talk to me. My grandmother would sit down. We'd have these daily talks. And whenever I'm out of country, she she would write these amazing letters, you know. And the letters
Mhm.
were always okay, you know, don't lose faith. Um, keep the pedal to the metal kind of thing, you know. Um, move ahead. Don't let it stop you. Very encouraging.
Yes. So you specialize, if I should use that term, it's humanitarian, but it's medical outreach that the foundation specializes in.
Yes, you wanna feel it, and I can jump in.
So the primary focus was originally medical. However, and we really reflected that in the work we did after Hurricane Melissa. So with the Melissa outreach in both St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland, it was primarily medical. But what we encountered in interfacing with the patients was they had mental health issues. They were expressing the pain, the mental anguish and pain of losing their homes, of having nowhere to go back to. There was one lady who expressed to me, solely because I was kind of pulled in because I have a background in suicide crisis counseling. She lost all her chickens. And it may seem simple to someone, but they were her support system,
Yeah.
emotional and otherwise. And she said, I should have brought them in. I didn't know that they would all have died. And in speaking with her, it really touched my heart because it was her whole world. As simple as it sounded, it was her whole world, and she felt lost.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it was that that experience and others, of expressing that they had no food. They were living under a piece of zinc or concrete for that matter, because in Black River, which is where we were at the time, you could still smell the sense of the scent of death because bodies were still in place. They had not been removed because we got there 5 days after the hurricane had hit them. So it drove home to us the need for mental health counseling. We had to support the people over and above just medical. And that's where it began. So we started out one way, but as life would have it,
Yeah.
we were directed in additional areas that were needed.
So who are the main groups that are served through the foundation's work?
So we have partners. We couldn't have done it on our own.
Sure.
And we partnered with MobiCare. Now, MobiCare is headed by Dr. Franz Collins, an amazing, amazing young man. And with him, he also worked side by side with Dr. Edmund Isles, another amazing doctor. Beyond that, we met with this interaction with Dr. Collins, Dr. Christoph Frank, who was familiar with St. Elizabeth. He was from the area. He knew where to go and went door to door with a part of our team as well, because he was familiar with how the people thought, where they were, and who would have been a shut-in. So they literally walked along the roadway through rubble and found people, provided wound care, everything. So we had one main clinic at Don's Motor World, and Don is an amazing man. I mean,
In Black River.
From Black River.
Mm-hmm.
He allowed us to set up our main clinic there. And from there, we branched out. So those who were able to make it to the clinic were seen on site at Don's Auto World, but the other part of our team went door to door, literally.
So
through Black River.
Right. So that was an interesting first foray into the into this experience for us, right? Because we were able to coordinate with 110 volunteers, and they're all volunteers, all Jamaicans, right? And so we went down 5 buses. There was this church group that had over 500 care packages for folks there on site at Don Smith's Motor World. And then it was just a wonderful experience. We worked through the Minister Floyd Green's office, and we worked with Miss Ganesha Campbell, and she was the one who was able to get us some of the things that we needed, right? So like things like tents, tables, chairs, porta potties, hand wash stations, those kind of things that become important and necessary in an emergency situation like this.
And to actually be able to encompass a team of the size that we had. Kanisha Campbell, I'd really like to mention her here. This was a young woman who would be on the phone. We were not when we were planning to be in Black River, once Melissa hit, we were on the phone with Kanisha at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. in the morning, and we were here in the U.S. planning it out so that once we hit,
we would be running. We would be up and running.
We hit the ground running. So that's what happened. We immediately, once we arrived, we drove down to Black River. We had to do a site visit because we could not take a team in not knowing what we would be faced with. So we did the site visit, came back to Kingston, and 2 days later, we were there with the entire team and we're set to go.
Yeah. The bus drivers were amazing too. There's this gentleman, Hopeton, out of Ocho Rios. Awesome guy. We couldn't have done it without him.
Yes.
So all the 5 buses we got through him and his friends, and they made sure, because going into the area was torturous, as you can well imagine, because it's like 4 or 5 days after the hurricane, right? And so you had to know the lay of the land. As a matter of fact, one of the times when we went down on the site visit, we were lost, and it took us about 30 minutes to make a U-turn because there was water on both sides of the road. There was a huge tree that was blocking the front of the road. We didn't want to get out of the car because they were like, there might be crocodiles or alligators or something like that, so we
had water on all sides.
Yeah.
We were surrounded.
And it was quite an experience.
But Hopeton, what he did beyond just getting us there with his team of drivers and the buses was he ensured that we would be safe.
Yes.
Even those who went out into the community, he made sure a bus went with them.
Yes.
And he wanted us there safely and back to Kingston safely. And we really commend him.
Yes.
Could not have done it without him.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Professor, question from you.
Yes, well, I'm very impressed by the fact that you're able to get through as much as you did, because we saw a lot of videos that were being posted of conditions of persons who left Kingston and it took them 2 days to get to St. Elizabeth where they wanted to go.
Yes.
And in regards to your being able to set up, what type of supplies did you take down at that point to enable you when you go back to Kingston to go back to address those needs? How did you get those supplies into the country? What type of experience was it to have access to your supplies? I know about the mental part of it because we were communicating with people out in the community on their cells. And I knew that some of the children, when the rain started falling again, they would run and ask their mother if the hurricane was coming back. So we were concerned about that downstream with impact on the children also. Okay.
Sure.
So yes, how did that all work out for you in your logistical movements and all of that stuff with your supplies?
Excellent question.
This is where Dr. Franz Collins comes into play. Dr. Collins had on his own pre-Melissa, for months, he has always been donating his time and service to the communities. So he had amassed donations of medication and various things for his community efforts. So when Melissa hit, we weren't scrounging around for medication. He already had it in hand. We were blessed to have some small donations for which we're grateful, but I commend him. And also, we would not, just beyond the medication part of it, we would not have gotten to Black River without FESCO. Provided us with fuel, because remember, fuel was an issue as well at that time. And so Errol McGaw, with FESCO, donated all the fuel we needed to do
for that initiative and beyond,
all the way through to the current
point. I mean, that was totally amazing. That was definitely, selfless, and it was amazing. And you're right, Dr. Collins, Dr. Isles, these young doctors, they're all homegrown, living in Jamaica. Right. And this was what was so amazing. It's not that we didn't want the external help. We want that. But we also want people to know our capabilities, and if given the opportunity, what we can do.
We can help ourselves.
We can help ourselves, right? I mean, that's what it's about.
And
reliance.
And you have to realize this is, I think, for me, having done various projects on the medical end in Jamaica for several years prior, I had not seen that level of compassion displayed by our medical folks in Jamaica for a long time. From my mother's time, I had not seen that. So to meet upon these young people, young doctors, young nurses, pharmacists, everyone willing to jump in, it blew us away.
Yeah.
So how could we not help and make it happen? We had to. It was totally in alignment with our vision and our feelings about our country.
Yes.
But let's help ourselves. Let's help ourselves where we can, rather than wait for help, because,
And the same, I'm sorry, go ahead, Professor.
I am relieved with this in-depth risk exposure of what was happening outside of the government. Okay, because I say that because of all the aid that poured into the country. Okay, and right now, when I'm covering what's going on in Parliament, they're arguing over distribution a year after Melissa. And so people have to understand the reason why we survived, okay, was not dependent on government. We have had interviews where doctors are sleeping on the floors in hospitals because they could not even get home anyway, okay? And so when people are motivated to give, I want them to see behind the government, okay? That our people, yes, we appreciate the gifts, but we are not waiting.
Yes, exactly. I mean, good point. Very good point. And so one of our mottos, right, is something that, we all know. We heard it from JFK in 1962. Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. However, what we have done And what a lot of other people have done as well in Jamaica on the ground there is to extend that, which is to say, and do it. So ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, and then do it.
Yes.
And so that's kind of how we flow.
Yeah. It's really refreshing to hear you speak like that, because in many other facets of life, whether it is sports or education, persons are just complaining, and they complain what they do not have. You don't hear them celebrating what they have.
Oh
And I
yeah.
believe that makes a huge difference, because you, for me now, are heroes.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, absolutely, because you leave and you left blind. You didn't know what you're going to encounter down there, but you left with a confidence and a hope and a faith. And that's the other thing. We have lost, sometimes it seems, our faith just to take up things and do them, because we know it is the right thing to do. And with that in mind, I know that, St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, and all the other parishes were severely damaged. But was there a method to you getting to choose particular areas or communities to foray into?
Yeah, so my background is in chemical engineering. And I also have some stuff from Wharton, and I also have my PhD in technology, right? So in information technology. So grounded in this background, what we did is that we thought about it, right? And we're like, where do we go first? Where do we go next? And then the answer to those questions are, well, you go where the needs are the most. So how do you determine where the needs are the most? So I thought about it, and I reached out to Mr. Evan Thompson from the Meteorological Society of Jamaica, right? He's the gentleman that's always on the TV whenever there's an incident occurring, and he talks about the storm and all of that stuff. So he was able to provide me with a GIS, which is I think it's a geographical information system overlay that showed the trajectory of the path, the path of the storm, right? Or the hurricane, I'm sorry. So you saw where it formed out into the Atlantic, and you could track it, and you could see where it turned right and come through the island and stuff like that. So now I reasoned, okay, well, let me try to determine the blast radius, because based on the blast radius, right, then the people on the edge of that blast radius may be affected more than those closer to the eye of the storm, right? And so we were able to look at that, and there was a census that was done probably about a decade or so ago in Jamaica, yeah, 2010. And so I was able to use that information and kind of determine, okay, here's where we need to go first, here's where we need to go second. So we use what's called a multi-criteria decision analysis profile. So it's some heavy math. You threw the numbers on it. You look at population density, number of homes in the area, number of schools in the area, and that kind of thing. And that allowed us to kind of predict scientifically where to go next. So that helped us with St. Elizabeth, that helped us with Westmoreland. And we went to two places in Westmoreland. We went to Petersfield High School in Westmoreland, and there we met an amazing young lady, Denisha Prendergast, amazing young lady. She had her stuff together, and her logistics. She helped us in no uncertain terms. She had riders who went out on bicycles and also on motorbikes to deliver food to people who were shut in, people who couldn't walk, people who couldn't get out of the homes because the trees were blocking the path. And she took our team, physicians, nurses, and those folks. So we had a mobile in each of these initiatives. We have a mobile as well as a field operation. So the field operation stays there on site, and then people come, community members come, students come, People of all walks of life come in. And then with the mobile operation now, we go out as best as we can to navigate the downed trees, navigate the fallen wires, and get to these people to deliver to them some of the resources that they needed.
And additionally, if someone was very hurt, they would put them on the back of the bike
and bring them in.
and bring them in to the field clinic. So that's how amazing it was. And the great thing with Petersfield High School, it was gated. So she had set up literally a place where women and children could come and stay because their homes had blown down and they would be safe. She had these guys, you know, the ones on the bikes and bicycles, they literally guarded the premises. Now, Denisha Prendergast is Sharon Marley's daughter. So she's Bob Marley's granddaughter, I understand. And when we went, she was extremely organized. They had a food area where they served the people who were housed there. They had a place for the children. I was impressed. And we went there to do our site visit at night. That's when we got there. We finally made it after driving hours to do our site visit before we did it.
Roads were blocked, roads were impassable. We had to find a different route. The GPS system wasn't working because there were no cell towers in the area. So you got to ask people, and you just got to keep on praying to the Father. And in all of this, one of the things that we should have mentioned initially is that we have a strong belief. We're believers.
Yes.
We don't always, we're not the Bible thumping Christians, right? But we do believe.
Yeah.
We do believe in God, and so prior to every mission, every morning, every night, we pray. We pray that He will keep us on the right path. We pray for things like strength, clarity of thought. Those are the things, some of the things that we pray about.
Yeah.
And we could not have done it without that.
How did you interact with the churches, number one, that you might have crossed paths with? And did you cross paths with anyone from the government? And how does that interaction?
Yeah, so there was this framework, and I think the framework came out of the framework came out of the issue that happened in the US many years ago, down in the Baton Rouge area, where that place was in New Orleans, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the framework that came out was called Incident I'm looking at my notes. Yeah, Incident Command System, right? So it's a framework that you use to communicate with people throughout other stakeholders, right? Okay. It also teaches you that based on need, you could scale up resources or scale down. So we use that, right? We did reach out to the government, but we didn't wait around to hear what they had to say because the clock is ticking. People are dying. People are needy. So we didn't wait around for them. Okay. We didn't wait around for the churches either. And to be honest with you, we never really, there was one church that we worked with initially, and it's
Faith Temple.
It's Faith Temple on Malines Road there.
Yes.
And they're the ones who brought in like 500, almost 600 care packages for the folks. So we went there, and we didn't necessarily help them to pack the packages, but we helped them to move the packages from upstairs, downstairs, and onto the bus.
Okay.
So yeah, they were very helpful.
And they did contribute medication as well. So that's kind of my role. I log and do an inventory on everything because it has to be medication that's not expired. And in critical times like this, things slip by, but we cannot endanger the lives of others because of that. So I double check. That's my background in more forensic accounting. So I check everything. I verify. So
yeah.
Okay, Professor, again, we meet amazing people, and you say we get the diamonds and the gems, but we have a gem and we have a diamond. We didn't just get one today, you know,
You're too
and
kind. Thank you.
yeah, it's so you learned a lot during the Melissa experience, and you returned to Jamaica recently. What was that trip about? And if you could explain to our viewers what you did there on this
Yes.
second trip.
Yeah, so like what Gwen was saying, that we recognize the need for mental health and to address that based on our experiences there with the tree initiatives in the areas that we talked about. However, we were approached by a school, by the guidance counselor from a school, and so an urban school. So then we thought, here's another way that we can actually leverage our resources, right? So instead of just going to that one school, why don't we do a pilot, right? So let's look at two schools that are urban and two schools that are rural, because then that's how far our resources could take us. We didn't want to go to 5, 6 schools, 7 schools, because then we'll exhaust ourselves, right? And so we have all these volunteers that we're working with. And oh, by the way, these volunteers have day jobs. They have jobs from Monday through Friday, and then
Saturday,
if not Saturday and Sunday. So when they're available, that's when they can help us, right? And they're committed to the cause. Trust me, they really are. So we looked at those two schools. We went in, and then we thought, okay, well, one of the things that happened, we were doing some stuff in Kingston, right? Some renovations to a property in Kingston, and we had two workmen, and one workman actually he had a medical complication, and he went to a hospital, and he was told that in order for him to deal with that complication, it would take him at least 2 years before he got any kind of treatment. Well, he died. About 3 months after, he died, right? And there's another one who we assisted, we helped him, we took him down, he got x-ray, blah, blah, blah. And then we hadn't seen him for about 3, 4 days. And when one of the guys went to look for him, it was actually with a serious hernia problem. He was in so much pain that he was walking home, fell into a ditch, couldn't get out of the ditch. So he was laying in the ditch for about 3, 4 days. And so we decided that, look, we got to get more involved. We got to help where we can. And so we went to one school. We said, okay, look at some of these problems downstream that these adults are having, and let's try to treat them upstream. So in other words, let's look at what we can do in some of these high schools, right? Whether it be education about a particular thing, whether it be wellness checks, whether it be mental health, whether it be vision testing, those kinds of things. How can we, and dentistry, how can we do that at that level so these kids going out will be better prepared to maybe not change their lives fully, but it will have an impact on them, we're hoping, down the road, So and we're at that age too, where, if we had made better lifestyle choices, maybe some of the things that we see or experience now would not have happened. Don't know, right? But you got to try. And so we looked at doing some stuff at Calabar High School. We looked at George's High School. And then for a comparison, we looked at Cornwall College, and we also are looking at Monroe College. And Gwen can talk to you a little bit about some of the impact that we have heard we've had in doing some of these things.
I think for the urban and rural schools, one of the common things we heard were some of the trauma that students were going through. And we targeted the boys' schools specifically to start with, because it's important. There's a lot that's placed on a man's shoulders. We know Jamaican women, we're strong. We got this, but we have to support the men. We pound them, and but we have to uplift them and give them the tools they need to be better men, better fathers, better husbands, that kind of thing. So what we encountered was a standard thought that young boys had really lost hope in some ways. They were struggling. And so you're coming off of COVID, then burial, then Melissa. And even though these are urban schools, they have aunts and uncles and cousins in the rural areas. They probably have parents in the rural areas and they're being boarded out in Kingston so they can attend schools. So they weren't exempt from the stress that their families were going through. And what we also found was that there was, I wouldn't say a lack of the tools to evaluate the students, but in all societies right now, we're dealing with neurodivergent students or young people who are becoming adults. And at the adult level, it morphs into something much more uncontrollable, if you'd like to put it that way.
And so with the neurodivergence things, right? It's a number of things. It's a combination of different mental psychosis that makes that up. And one of the things that we're working with now is with Ishtar from Amaji Health, and we're also going to talk about Lauren as well.
So there's another part B to all of this, which we can come to once we wrap up about the schools that we have chosen to work with. But again, the neurodivergent component is students who are they have been through trauma. They may have PTSD. They may be autistic, maybe high functioning or low functioning, suffering from low or high functioning autism. They could be dyslexic, but they have not been properly diagnosed, nor is the system prepared to handle it.
Yeah, and so the way that it presents itself, right, is that the kid may be classified as being unruly, a troublemaker, getting kicked out of class, gets homework, doesn't complete the homework, and given certain techniques, then the outcome could be better, right? So who would actually be instructed in doing this? Well, it would be the guidance counselors, it would be the teachers, it would be the parents. It takes a village, it really does.
I have experience along the ADD, attention deficit disorder situation addressing. And unfortunately, also we find that some of the teachers were not exposed to that when they were being trained. They don't believe and understand that attention deficit disorder. So the child ends up OSS, out of school suspension, consistent out of school suspension. I am very familiar with that because my wife is a guidance counselor. And, so I am very familiar with the situation that you're talking. And I've talked about that in relation to, in connection with other persons that we have spoken about. Because when I was going to school in Jamaica, there was no guidance counselor in the school.
None.
Okay? There are no guidance counselors.
Yes.
Okay? So we are asking people who were not exposed to guidance counselor to deal with the children in their schools who need guidance counselors.
Yes.
And the teachers does not understand that they need guidance counselor. They send the child to the principal's office.
Yes.
So yes, again, we are always, I would say, uncovering some of the conversations that we should be having every time we sit down with persons like yourself. Okay? Because not everyone sometimes notices the void.
Yes.
Because they're programmed to have it. That is, this is how they always saw things. So when it does happen, it's normal. Okay? It's a pleasure having you guys here this afternoon.
Thank you so much.
We try not to stretch this beyond the first, like they would say, you don't have breakfast and lunch at the same time.
No, the pleasure is extremely ours, and we hope that in some small measure we will help somebody who's listening, and not only help somebody who is listening, but help them to do some of the things that we did.
Well,
And you won't
Yes.
know unless you try.
Yeah.
it will get to them because everything that we do is for publication. This is a pilot project that we are talking about here. Because
Right.
it means that next time something happens, they'll see a way it was done effectively and
Yes.
productively. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yes, everything that comes to our table is a mentorship interview.
Ah,
That is what it is all about. It mentors them, and I get the feedback from them. Okay. That is why I said that this is why we explode so much. This is why, William Trevor, we share, because there's some of us who knows that the information is needed and they might have the information, but they never produced it.
right.
What Dale does is a production.
Right.
Then we have a distribution.
Yes. Thank you so much. And one of the things that we're doing, with the website and also with CASSM is that we're in the process of putting up the website, and in addition to that, releasing some white papers, lessons learned.
Yes.
And what makes us different, a little bit different from like Red Cross and stuff like that, is that Red Cross, they're very valuable. They're invaluable, in fact. And we're not asking for donations right now until we are at that point where we can say, okay, it's fully transparent. Here is how we spend the money that you have given to us. Here are some of the things that we can give you, not just pictures, but here's a roadmap. Here is a evidence-based accounting of what we did, how we did it, so you too can do it.
Well, the Legacy Series is a library of services that is being provided mainly by nonprofits, because our long-term objective is to do things to scale.
Yes.
Okay, so we know at a certain point, and we speak about that we're going to be able to package 10 organizations who are able to unite in putting out something maybe across the island. But in order for you to get the type of funding that will make that possible, they have to see that the foundation is in place.
Of course, absolutely.
Okay? And a lot of them does not want to deal with one nonprofit. It's a waste of their time. When they want to write a $20 million check, they want to see where their legacy is going to be established.
Of course.
And we have to show them that we have the organizations in place that can distribute a service that they are willing to finance across the island, not in one school. That is why some of the things we talk about that Cornwall College is doing. They started out looking for equipment for one school, and they got equipment for 75 schools.
I mean, and we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Neville Bell.
Well,
an amazing young gentleman, and Cornwall College,
Well,
yeah.
Neville Bell has been on our platform on more than one occasion. We are
So we heard.
very familiar with Neville Bell, okay?
But I'd like to say our experience, at this point at Cornwall College, and we went based on the plan that we verbalized and how we came up with it. However, what it morphed into was a more human aspect. We did our site visit. We met the amazing team. We met Principal Ellis and Miss Higgins and Nurse Samuels. I mean, there's the two ladies I mentioned, Miss Higgins and Nurse Samuels, those are two heroes in my book as well. They worked hard to make this a success.
Well, thank
you. But speaking with
yes.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
And Neville, let me tell you, amazing. Amazing. Also, Earl Findlater, he was the one who got the ball rolling in terms of the momentum to link us with the alumni.
Okay.
So, and in doing so, what I found out was he was married to one of my high school alum.
Okay.
And she's amazing.
And she and I went to the same primary school.
So they knew each other in primary school. So you see how the father works, kind of bring people together.
Well, you know that earlier Dale want to know if I was gonna touch on the mangoes because we all eat mangoes. It connects us whether we like it or not.
That's true. That's true. And let me tell you, the Cornwall College, we saw over
Over
414 combined students and members of the community over 2 days. So we had the mental health, we had dentistry, we had JASL as well, Jamaica AIDS Support for Life. We also had
they're always with us.
Always with us, you know. And then we had a dentistry team. We had Dr. Shalane Allen, amazing young lady from
UTech Oral Science.
UTech Oral Sciences in Kingston.
They came down Sunday morning, team of 10 final year students to do dental cleanings. And I mean, they saw 90 patients. So from they arrived until the time they left, they never stopped, literally.
And like Dr.
Lauren Page Reed.
Page Reed, yeah.
Another amazing young Jamaican doctor. And she's a medical doctor, but she also does mental health. And what happened? A little story. So there was a bus accident there in Montego Bay. So Cornwall College students and Mount Alvernia students were injured in the accident. And there were 2 young ladies that were still hospitalized. So Dr. Reed was able to go to Cornwall Regional Hospital, meet with them, and counsel them. And they were in bad shape, we were told. But being a medical doctor was very important in what she was able to share with them, because she could assess them physically and emotionally as well, and be able to really understand if they said, hey, I have 10 broken bones in my leg, that kind of thing. She could talk them through that process. What does it look like? Answer questions that they may have had about what's going to happen when I do get released from hospital. Because one of the young ladies, I think, would be there a very long time. She had a lot of broken bones. So she was able to talk them through that. And if you're speaking about just, not to minimize anybody, a psychiatrist per se, they may not have had that full imagery in their mind in terms of her, the student's medical health. So it's we felt that it was a great experience. So we actually involved Mount Alvernia based on that bus accident. They were included in the effort. And what has transpired since then is we will be moving on to Monroe. So we're going to be doing Monroe and Hampton School, which is an all-girls, their sister school.
Yeah.
So, the picture changes.
Yes.
And so we're going with the fluidity of it and doing as much as we can.
Okay, wonderful.
Wow. More impressive is not the right word, but we look at these individuals with so much humility, Professor, and people out there listening to them without any fanfare, so to speak. And the scientific approach, this is not just a willy-nilly, let's just do this. And the descriptions of how they chose the areas, going to the different schools, making sure they didn't just focus on the urban areas, even though you are urbanites yourself, but to understand the Jamaica that is out in the West and other places. And you couldn't have chosen 2 better schools to start off with in Cornwall College and Mount Alvernia, if I may say so myself. You may. But this is it's not a wonderful story. It is telling us that no matter what darkness is swirling around us and the chaos and whatever, there are beautiful people around and people who are exemplary, in the way in which they conduct themselves and the humility with which they conduct themselves. And it gives us hope. And there's always hope. And we speak about hope springs eternal. It's because of people like both of you why that hope springs eternal.
Thank you. And just thank you for the opportunity to come and just share our experiences with you and the professor and your listeners. Thank you, and we hope that you can invite us back again to hear part B.
Absolutely, because remember, you're global, not just a global foundation, but you're now global ambassadors for
Thank
us.
you. Yes.
So, very much so.
Professor, you can wrap it.
Yes, I will say that our diaspora is always in need of information that motivates them. I say this because on many occasions I've asked that we do not invite politicians to come to the diaspora. We invite the people who are heading up our institutions who knows what the needs are. Okay? So if you're going to have an event, invite the principal of Cornwall College, of Mount Vernon, of Manning's, because when they come, they're going to tell you what they face every day.
Sure.
I had a think tank, and I used to hear from administrators that used to work in the Ministry of Education, Trevor, their children who do not go to school because they have no shoes.
Sure.
Their children do not go to school because they have no breakfast. Bring tears to our eyes.
Sure.
Because they have no breakfast, and hungry, as they hungry picnic can't learn.
So true.
They can't be thinking about food and you're trying to teach them something. Even when Jesus was on the mount, after he finished speaking, he realized he had to feed them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So no, we need the positive examples to bring back to our diaspora. Okay. I speak about the June Diaspora Conference, and even though we have delegates who went down, they came back with nothing to tell us.
Wow.
They only listen to the business down there telling them where they can invest, what they have, what type of products they have, and money coming to Jamaica. There was nothing about the mental health of the children.
Right.
That when a child is hurt, you need to heal them physically and mentally. Okay?
Yes.
So your example is a living example. It will be well received. Thank you so much for spending the time with us. Thank you.
And thank you for having us.